We have with us tonight Alyson Winick, who was the executive producer of Brothels. We also have with us Dee Jones, also known as Derek Jones, and his wife Natural, who were the filmmakers of 631. And Marquette Jones, who was the filmmaker who made Round on Both Sides, cannot be here tonight, but the film is represented by her mother, Shaq. Everyone just have a seat. Make yourselves comfortable.
Of course not.
Okay, wonderful. Before we get started, I just want to once again thank Stambaugh Auditorium for hosting this event tonight. And also we have a second photographer here who's kind of following the action with Richard Cancio, and he had to leave, but I also wanted to thank him. Okay, so this is going to be an open question and answer period, and we do have a microphone available if you want to ask questions. But for the moment, I think I'm just going to get the ball rolling. So I'd like to introduce Alyson Winick, the executive producer of Born into Brothels. Hello, Alyson.
Hello.
Alyson, I understand that you have a local connection, so I'm curious to know how you got involved in the making of this film, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
I certainly can. I first would like to acknowledge my fellow filmmakers and congratulate you. I enjoyed your work very much. So I think you should give them a hand. I also want to thank Michelle, and I also want to make a clarification. I am not the executive producer of Born into Brothels. I was involved post-production-wise. So just for the record, Geraldine Dreyfus is the executive producer of Born into Brothels. I am local. I was born in Newcastle. I live in Cleveland, Ohio, and the way I got involved in this film was really kind of quirky and interesting. And I'm a skier, and I skied in Sundance. I started going out to Sundance, I guess, in 2000. And of course, I went out to Sundance because everybody, the Pips, the people in black, that's what we call the filmmaker people, they had overtaken the town and there was nobody on the ski slopes. So we found that to be attractive, and I started going to Sundance, and I took some friends. And I decided I wasn't going to ski on a Wednesday. And I said, go get us some tickets. We're going to go see some films. So they got us a ticket for Born into Brothels. I was looking at the program. I said to my friends, I don't want to go see that movie. I'm out here to have fun. This movie looks depressing. But, and they said, well, you have the van. You're going to drive us. It's at the Sundance Institute. Whether you go to the film or you don't go to the film, you're taking us. So we went over, and I went to the film. And I was so taken by this film and how powerful it was. It stunned me. And I went up to the filmmakers, Ross Kaufman and Xana Brisky, who produced and directed this film. And I said to them, I would like to do something for the children. Could you come to Cleveland? Are you in the Cleveland Film Festival? And they said that they had applied, but they hadn't been able to get in. And I said, well, let me see what I can do about that. So I came home and I talked to some people because I really had no experience in film. None, other than going to Sundance and going to see these films. I came home, I enlisted the help of a few friends, and lo and behold, voila, they got into the Cleveland Film Festival, and I did my fundraiser for the kids, and we raised $14,000 over 2 days. And that was a lot more than they had done at Sundance. And I was hooked. I love these kids, loved the filmmakers, and but then I went back to my workaday life, and then I got this call. Oh, nobody's going to see the film, and you know, and if you could only come to Nashville, if you could come to Nashville and just give us a hand. So I had some work to do, so I said, okay, I'll stop in Nashville because I really want you to win an Oscar. And Nashville was the venue where you could win an Oscar if you placed. But Patrick Swayze's movie was playing there and nobody was going to see their film. And you need people to vote in order to get an award so that you can be eligible for a nomination. It doesn't mean you'll get nominated, but in order to be eligible, you need to place in this particular competition. So I went down there and I just went up to everybody, people like you in this audience here, and people like you, and I told them about the film, and I gave them a money-back guarantee to see the film. And lo and behold, the film filled up. They got 2 awards, one of which I have hanging in my study, and the rest is really history. I mean, I flew all over the country with these guys going and raising money. We raised about $100,000 over the course of this project. And I really thought I did nothing. They thought I did enough that they invited me to the Oscars. So I went to the Oscars in 2005. And, and we won. Okay. So how was that? Long-winded.
Now, quickly before we move on, I understand that you've gone on to work on and produce several other films, and you actually had a new film show at Sundance this year that was kind of controversial. Is that true?
That is true.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I will. I will tell you a little bit about that. I have done about 6 or 7 projects since then. This is Born in the Brothels in 2004, 2005. Was my introduction to film. Since then, I've been to Cannes with Doctors Without Borders. I was involved in that project. In a Dream with Jeremiah Zagar. It won several awards. And Saving Face this year won an Oscar for short documentary. You could say I'm a little bit passionate and interested in film. It opened a whole new world for me. And then I did a crossover this year, a crossover feature called Compliance. Compliance took second this year at Sundance. It was extremely controversial. It's a very disturbing film. I was drawn to the project because it's based on a true story, or it is a true story. And it's based on the Milgram syndrome, which any of you in the audience, if you're familiar with the shock treatment experiments in the late 60s, where people compromised their ethics as well as their morality because someone in authority told them to give these people shocks, even though they really were told that they were giving lethal shocks. So that's the big picture of the film. The film is based on actual incidents that you probably read about that took place in a fast food restaurant where there were prank calls made to, there were 70 such incidents across the United States at various restaurants where a prank caller called in and convinced the manager that one of her employees had stolen some money and had them bring her back to the back and had strip searched, and it got really carried away, and a man was sent to prison for 2 years in that incident for sexual assault. Everything was lifted from the court records. It's been called brilliant by the New York Times, Frank Bruni. We've gotten terrific reviews in the New Yorker. There's some Oscar buzz about it for Ann Dowd, who was the actress who was the restaurant manager. And that has been incredibly exciting. In Sundance, I believe that this film that you just saw is an iconic film in terms of documentary filmmaking. I think, when I've been to panels, they always refer to Born in the Brothels. It was like a breakthrough film. I believe that Compliance will have the same kind of reputation as, Revolutionary, Reservoir Dogs, some of those things that showed at Sundance that, were tough to watch or were controversial at the time, and later went on to, people talk about it all the time. So, the people did walk out of the theater. I mean, can you imagine being in the theater and this is your film and you've put your whole passion into it and people are walking out, your stomach is churning. I'm telling you, it's quite an experience. But yes, Compliance is in 45 theaters. We sold it to Mark Cuban's company, Magnolia. And it's just so-so at the box office, even though it's gotten unbelievable critical acclaim. Does that answer it?
Can we see it around here?
It just left Cleveland, so it's not in Cleveland. However, VOD, video on demand, and the DVD will be coming out at the end of the season. It's still showing, I think it's still showing in New York. They went crazy in New York, LA, some of the bigger venues. Okay, so, go out and see it. It's a very compelling film.
Thank you. Well, Derek, if I can ask you a question. You directed 631, which is about your family home. Why did you make that film of any film that you could have made? What compelled you to tell that story?
Well, I was actually in graduate school getting my MFA at Ohio University School of Film at the time, and I enrolled in a personal documentary class, and I didn't really know what kind of films I wanted to make when I was once I got to film school, but I realized through experience that I really liked working behind the scenes on narratives, but I didn't like writing or directing them myself, so I kind of gravitated a little bit more towards documentary. This class was being offered, and it sounded like a really interesting class to explore documentary on a personal level. And so when it came time for us, the culmination of the class was, of course, to make your own personal documentary, and I was racking my brain for a little bit trying to figure out what I would do. And it was actually the music that inspired me to make this film. When I went to my friend's house who worked on the music, it wasn't originally intended for the film. He was just letting me listen to music. He does music, so he was letting me listen to some things. And as soon as I heard the music, I kind of saw the film in my head. And I was fortunate enough to have a lot of photos with my mother and my grandmother. They saved a lot of photos. We had this, I remember we had this one reel of film from back in the day. That a lot of that film is in the movie, but this one reel of film that my grandmother had left from those days, and my mother worked really hard to get it transferred to VHS so that she'd be able to watch it again. And so when she got it transferred to VHS, we just always had this little tape with some cheesy music behind it that had a lot of the scenes that were in that film, and they were pretty much all that she had left of, the house in its glory days. And so the combination of that and the pictures, it was really, it's interesting because that film has helped me it's helped me go to France. It's helped me get money for my other film projects, and it pretty much cost me a tank of gas to go to come back to Youngstown and sit down with people and interview them. about their memories of the house. But I thought that that was something that was very personal, and it was an opportunity to really pay homage to an important place in my family's history, knowing that the condition that it was in and where it was going, that might not last. And so it was very important to, it's a personal documentary to say I can document this moment and kind of in remembrance of and celebration of something that was so much a part of my family's history.
Now, just very quickly, there's another part to this story, which is 631 actually played at the Cannes Film Festival, which is one of the most prestigious film festivals in the world. And you actually were able to attend the festival. And I understand that it's kind of extraordinary how you were able to go. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that.
I was at the film school, and we're sitting in class and we're getting ready for class to start, and one of my classmates was reading this pamphlet, and so I kind of looking over their shoulder like, what's that? And they're like, oh, it's some internship thing. And so I started to take a look at it, and it was an advertisement for a internship experience with the American Pavilion at the Cannes Film Festival. And so I was like, wow, that seems like something that would be cool, go to France and, be a part of the film festival. And so that was something totally separate. I didn't apply for that and was accepted to that. And it's, it's one of those internships where it's like, you pay for everything, but you, but you go, and it's an opportunity to not only go and be a part of, one of the largest and most prestigious film festivals in the world, but also the experience to get to network with people, meet other filmmakers, different things like that. Separate from that, there are two things that a lot of people just see the film festival itself. They see, Brad Pitt, and Quentin Tarantino, and that's the big part that people see. But even much larger than the film festival itself is the film market, where films are being bought and sold. And so in addition to the films that are playing in the festival, 500 or more films are being shown to people with the potential of buying them. People are trying to pitch their films, get distribution, different things like that. I saw a lot of films that came out, in the next year or so later once they got picked up and different things like that. And so part of that process is something they have called the Short Film Corner. And basically that's an opportunity for short films to get some showcasing and some love from people from all around the world. And so it's great to be able to put that on my resume and be able to put that on the film poster. But it was like one of 1,000 short films that were being shown at that time in the market. But it was still, it's like, hey, one of 1,000 at Cannes Film Festival is not that bad. So the combined experience of the internship and also to have this film in the short film corner is kind of the way of saying that this small building that was so important to my family is being exposed to so many people around the world, and that really made a huge impact on me.
Well, Shaq, your daughter Marquette wrote and directed the other film we saw, Round on Both Sides. And she couldn't be here tonight, but I appreciate you representing the film. And you're in kind of a unique position because you're not only the mother of the filmmaker, but this is a film that's more or less based on your life and your daughter's life. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what the experience is like of having your daughter sort of adapt your family history into a short film, and how you both dealt with that.
It was very hard. It was very hard because, like you said, it is my story, and my daughter came to me one day and asked if she can make a movie out of it. And I had problems with it because there were good times and there were bad times, and it was a struggle. But in the end, I thought about it and I said, okay, great idea, because she was sharing a story that shed light on a bigger picture, I felt. I was a teenage mother, and I did have dreams and hopes of becoming that model. But I realized, being in Los Angeles, that it was more to that. So I made a choice, in which we all do have choices. I made one, and I came back to get her, but I didn't leave her. I took her with me. So just to give you some insight on that, I came back to get her, and she was gone, and she was in Washington, D.C., and I happened to fly to D.C., found her father, and took her and brought her back with me, and she stayed in Los Angeles with me. She went to school in Los Angeles. She became an attorney. She didn't like law, so she went to New York. She graduated from NYU Film School, and she pursued her dream as a director. So, make a long story short, it was a struggle, but I believe that it was worth it, because my daughter, I feel, is successful.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, I also have to add that although like you were portrayed as the mother in the film, and your daughter, who has gone on to great things, was essentially the little girl, that you have also gone on to work with children, is that correct?
Well, not exactly work with children. My position now, I work with a lot of ex-offenders and people who are involved in the criminal or correctional field. And I've had the opportunity to go back and tell my story to other young people, and especially the young teenagers who are making those choices that I made. A lot of times we feel as if they're bad choices because of the circumstances that they're under, being a single parent and being young and not educated. So what I've been able to do is share my story and show the film to shed light and give them hope that even though you've made this choice, there's also a brighter side where you can come ahead and also educate your child to do better than you did.
And your daughter's living proof of that. Okay. Well, does anyone in the audience have a question? We do have a microphone, and we can kind of Phil Donahue this, and you can ask some questions of the filmmakers. It's okay to think about it before you raise your hand. I can tell you from personal experience that attending a film festival is not only an interesting experience for the audience, because you get to meet the filmmakers, and you get to see some films that you might not have a chance to otherwise, but it's also an extraordinary experience to be there as a filmmaker, because it's not often that you actually get to screen a film that you have made with an audience and get their response. So I'm sure we would all love to hear from you. But while you're thinking about it, Derek, in addition to 631, you have another more recent film that's actually going to be screening at the Youngstown Film Festival on Sunday. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, we have another film on Sunday afternoon that will be playing. It's The Great Incarcerator, Part 1, Dark Little Secret. And actually, I'm going to pass the microphone to my wife, Natural, because she is a better speaker than I am, and also she'll be able to explain this film a little bit better than I do.
Thank you so much. I was beginning to feel like a bump on a log. My husband is extremely modest, and that's something that I really love very intensely about him. When he was talking about 631, he brushes over the fact that this film helped him go to France. This film was one of 1,000 showing at the short film corner at the Cannes Film Festival that had helped to get him financing for his later, more recent projects. And one thing that he does not readily mention to people, and I can understand why, but I tell the entire world, is that 631 won him the Princess Grace of Monaco Foundation Award in 2008. And with that, did I get that right? Yeah, the Princess Grace Award. The funds that he received from that were dedicated to his next project. And I was not initially, I'm not a filmmaker per se, I was not initially involved in the original project. It kind of came to be that I got involved with it and have tried to be as deeply involved since then. And that is the film that's going to be screening on Sunday, The Great Incarcerator, Dark Little Secret. It's part one in what is planned to be a 4-part series that reveals the truth about the prison system in the United States of America. Our inspiration for it, I guess it's kind of rooted in the 13th Amendment, learning that slavery was not completely abolished by the 13th Amendment. And it states that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime, wherein the party has been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. We started to take a very intense look at the prison system in the United States of America, rooted on the Lucasville riots that took place back in 1993. And originally the story was supposed to be very much about that uprising specifically. The more of the footage he would bring to me, he would show me, the more of the story that I would learn, I started to feel as though it was necessary for us to, tell this story about the Lucasville inmates. However, in our society, we are very much trained and conditioned to see people who go to prison, who are subjected to the criminal justice system in our society as the pariah of our society. And we're trained not to care about those people. And if we do give any consideration to those people, it is usually negative. And so I tell them, I think the Lucasville story is very important, and I think that it needs to be told. However, how are you going to convince your audience to care about the Lucasville inmates and why it is they rioted in 1993? Or why any inmates riot? Or why it is they go to prison at all? And how come our system tends to be the one that incarcerates people at such a high rate? We are only 5% of the world's population, and we incarcerate 25% of the world's prisoners. We also keep a very large group of people moving through the criminal justice system through post-release control, through parole. You have to ask yourself the question, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, how and why it is we can afford and choose to do this. And when you look at the 13th Amendment, you find that there is that exception for slavery. So the story sort of started over. There was a reset situation there. And we realized that we needed to kind of inform people about what the prison industrial complex is, why it is happening, and who is perpetuating it in this society. And that is what the first in the series of The Great Incarcerator is all about. It discusses the government's hands in it, the criminal justice side of things, the inmates themselves, as well as corporate America's involvement in making sure that people continue to both get and remain incarcerated in our society. And all of that kind of birthed from 631 being made, so.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing that. And will that be playing at any other festivals?
So far, that film has traveled as far as Amsterdam at this point in time. And it has just been going through the festival circuit for probably the last year or so. And so I don't know if there's anything scheduled locally or close by anytime soon, but.
In addition to film, there's been probably about 5 other film festivals. We've also done screenings at universities and different places, community screenings. I think this is actually the last one that we've applied for.
That being said, obviously it's not available on DVD at this point in time or anything of that nature, but we've done several screenings in Youngstown, and we are always willing, under general circumstances, to do screenings, to set up with universities, community organizations, Obviously, Derek will still be able to do some of those things in the near future, but I'll be kind of on hiatus for a little while. But yeah, but if anyone is interested in doing a screening, or we encourage everybody to come out on Sunday and make sure that you see it. And at that point, if you're interested in doing screenings, just let us know, and we'll exchange information and get there and get it done.
Yes. Oh, we have a question over here. Thank you. Here's a microphone. We would love to hear from you. Thank you very much.
It's sort of a question. Do you know Michelle Alexander's work, The Jim Crow?
She's in the film.
Is she in the film?
She is in the
Okay,
film.
very good. She was here in Youngstown and spoke, and I have her book. Excellent.
Yeah, no, she's in the film. Actually, she, in my opinion, she made the film. She solidified everything that we were talking about in the film. But we have commentary from Michelle Alexander, from Angela Davis, from Cynthia McKinney, from State Senator Nina Turner, and a lot of other people, naturals in it. We have a few people who were involved in Lucasville who were in it. And we're basically at this point focusing on getting part 2 done. But yes, Michelle Alexander, definitely.
Well, I would certainly suggest to everybody who's here to tell everybody to see that, because any of you who have not read the Jim Crow book or heard Michelle Alexander, the work that they're talking about is absolutely incredible. And it really, I am so glad to know that there's been a film made that's going to help get that message out.
Indeed.
Thank you very much for your question. And actually, this raises another interesting point. I hope that you will come out to the rest of the screenings this weekend, because films at film festivals, there's no better way to show your appreciation and support than showing up for a screening, except telling people that you saw an excellent film. So I would definitely encourage you to tell your friends about the films you've seen here tonight, tell them about the upcoming screenings, and please get on Facebook and Twitter, or email people, or get on the phone if that's all you have, and call your friends and just tell them that there are some extraordinary films playing and that they definitely could use your support. Because the more people who hear about the films that are playing here at the festival and the films that you saw tonight, the more chance other people will have to see them, the more chance that they will get distribution. So please tell your friends. Do we have any other questions? Oh, we have one here. Oh, I will tell you all about the other films in a moment. I have one more question here coming up.
This is a question for Shaq. I understand that Marquette is in Los Angeles and she has made additional films, and I'd just like to hear a little bit more about the other work so that we might sort of understand some of the scope of what she's done and what is on her horizon, because everyone else has been talking about their additional films, and I'd like to hear what you've got.
Well, right now she's working on a PBS in Los Angeles. She's done several other short films. One of her films was produced, or what you say, sponsored by, when someone pays for it, they're the sponsors. She won a contest, and she was able to produce her first short film through this contest. And I think she's done about maybe 4 short films. And right now she's in Los Angeles. She moved from New York last year back to LA. Thank you.
That's lovely. So hopefully we'll see her name on Western Reserve Media soon. That's right. Red carpet. Do we have any other questions? Okay, well, while you're thinking about it, we have some other wonderful films showing this weekend that I just want to tell you about. And also, I have a question. Is Ben Larisha in the audience tonight? Is Ben here? Okay, well, he's one of the filmmakers who has a film showing later in the weekend. So if he was here, I was just going to ask him to say something about it, but I'll do that on his behalf. So we have screenings all throughout the rest of the weekend, beginning tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. at the Oh Wow Children's Center downtown, there's going to be a screening of some children's animation films. And it's going to be accompanied by an art lesson. Basically, some art students from YSU in the community are going to be coming in, and they're going to be teaching children about animation. And there's actually going to be a demonstration, and they'll be working on art projects. So it's a nice family event. And then we have several screenings in the afternoon and evening at the Oakland Center for the Arts, also downtown. The first is 4 p.m. tomorrow. We will actually be screening Ray Boom Boom Mancini's documentary, Youngstown Still Standing, which has not actually had much of a local screening in the past. It did show at the Cleveland Film Festival, but not much publicly in Youngstown. So we have the wonderful opportunity to show that at 4 p.m. tomorrow. And I did manage to get a copy and watch it myself in advance. And I can tell you that it is, it's an extraordinary film about Youngstown. I think it really captures the heart of the place that we live, because it was made by people who were from here. And I think it's possibly the first film about Youngstown that was made by Youngstowners. And it is just wonderful and edgy and hilarious. And so I encourage you all to come. And then at 7 p.m. we have, at the Oakland, 2 screenings. We have a short film by a local film student who is studying at the University of North Carolina called Skunk. And that's immediately followed by the feature film General Education, which was made by Hubbard native Tom Morris. And General Education has been getting a lot of buzz recently because not only did it screen at the Cleveland Film Festival, but it has actually been picked up for distribution, and it is playing in New York, and it is about to come out on DVD and Blu-ray, so it's quite an accomplishment by a local filmmaker. And again, I did manage to get a pre-screener copy of the DVD, which we'll be showing tomorrow, and it's a lot of fun. It's a real cute film. It has a lot of hilarious stuff about coming of age, and I'll just encourage you to come take a look at that. It's really wonderful. And then finally, tomorrow at 10 p.m., we have a horror film screening, The Hellsworth Haunting, which is a short feature-length horror film made by, again, a local filmmaker who was a graduate of Cleveland State University, and this was his thesis film there. He's also gone on to continue working in film. It's, again, a lot of fun. It's possibly the first horror film that I've ever seen that I would call charming. It's scary and it's funny. They really made use of the locations that they have and local actors. And again, I encourage you to come out for that. And then on Sunday, we have several screenings at the Butler Museum for American Art. The first is at 1:30 p.m. and we'll be showing the short film by Ben Larisha, Ringers and Washers, which is a documentary about a game that was invented in Youngstown at the turn of the century by steel mill workers using scrap and other materials that they had at their disposal. Like, it wasn't a game that you could buy. They invented it and they basically used what they had. So it's a film by a Youngstown native about a game invented in Youngstown. And then that is followed by D. Jones' film Dark Little Secret, which you've just heard about. And I definitely encourage you to come see that because it sounds amazing. And then after the screenings at the Butler Museum, there will be an awards ceremony at 6 p.m. at the Holiday Inn in Boardman. And please go to the Facebook page or the website or speak to some of the festival workers for more information about that. It's one more chance to not only honor the filmmakers that have shown films at the film festival, but it's also a chance to eat some good food and drink some nice stuff and basically have a big party. So I hope everyone will come to that as well. And again, please tell your friends and family about everything that we've got going on, because the films and the film festival definitely would like your support. So I guess before we wrap up, do we have any other questions for the filmmakers? Oh, wonderful. Surprised me. Okay, go for it.
I have one for you, Derek. Is your home still standing?
Yes, it is. The house is 631 Ridge Avenue, hence the name 631. And that is it's close to the corner of Hillman and Ridge. You go all the way down Hillman to the bottom of the hill. And it's still there. It's pretty much covered with trees. And so I think from how it looked in the film, the trees are just a lot bigger and the grass is a lot taller. You know, and we do have those you know, dreams sometimes that, you know, we'll one day strike it rich and be able to just, you know, put it back together. But, you know, hopefully that's at the very bottom of the list, and who knows, maybe somebody in Youngstown will see the film and say, hey, we can't tear that house down. I don't know. But they're tearing down a lot of good houses. There are a lot of historic homes in Youngstown. They've been doing that for years, and so I'm not under the illusion that our house isn't is any more protected. But luckily, it's still standing. And so we're gonna go down there tomorrow and do another photo shoot. We do all kind of stuff around the house every time I come into town. So yeah, but it's still there.
Actually, that raises another question that I have, so thank you, you inspired me. Since 631 was a film that is shown in many different places and around the world, I was wondering, you know, what sort of questions has it raised from people who've seen the film, or what sort of response has it gotten from its audience? Because I think, and I'm inspired by this, especially because it's screened at Cannes, and I think that there's a perception in the world that America is a very wealthy nation, which in the grand scheme of things it is, but I think that some people who have seen the film might have a hard time believing that could happen in the United States. So I'm wondering what sort of questions you've gotten about the film in your experience.
My favorite set of responses are the Youngstown responses. When we did a screening at Youngstown State University. Man, how long ago was that? Like almost 2 years ago. And the response was overwhelming not only because people could relate to the experience of things that happened in that film, but they actually knew the place, you know, and so people would say, oh, I used to live right around the corner, I used to live down the street, you know, all those different things. So they were very familiar with the neighborhood, and I think that also what came after that screening was the opportunity to go to Chicago with the film as part of it was the Working Class Studies Association annual conference, and actually the co-directors of the Working Class Studies program here at YSU were the ones who brought us out, or I should say back home, to be able to screen the film at YSU. And they actually were looking at the film as text and look at how the film could contribute to the study of working class issues. And so at this particular conference in Chicago, the film was given to someone in history, someone in sociology, someone in geography, someone else in film, and they basically did a reading of the film based on their individual disciplines. And so it was very interesting to see how much the film was able to contribute to discourse about what working class people were going through in society, and how it kind of brought together a lot of people and what they were studying. And this was just a class project, a very personal class project, and the response for it has been that even though it was something that was very personal to me and my family, that it could be related to by many people in many different ways. And so I think that was really the significant return of the investment in making this film. Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad that you brought up the working class studies situation, because that was probably the most intriguing that we've encountered ever since the film came out. And one of the gentlemen that was studying it as text, he was very keen on how the party life of working class people was displayed in this movie, because obviously, culturally speaking, everybody's got their own thing when it comes to the getting down and partying and all the other good stuff. And this film, he felt like it did a really dynamic job of showing the kicking it aspect of working class people. And we had, with people looking at it as text, we obviously hadn't considered that. This is just, it's the way he grew up, it's the way I grew up, we're just kind of accustomed to that sort of thing. But that gentleman was very intrigued by, the party scene for the working class folks back in the day, how they managed to have so many parties with so little finances, I guess he didn't understand that that's a necessity. You have very small finances. You break the stress of daily living by kicking it. So, yeah, it's a lot of kicking. I went down to 631. So.
Hopefully, thank you. Well, Alyson, just to bring it back around to you for a moment, you have had, for someone who sort of came into a film career initially by accident, I suppose, just because you had a very passionate response to something that you had seen. You've amassed quite a career as a film producer. I mean, born into Brothels, which you worked on and went on to win an Academy Award. You screened at Sundance and you've won, your films have won multiple awards. You have an extraordinary track record, and I'm wondering, how do you pick the projects that you work on? Because, the first one is something that you responded to with passion, but since then, how have you found so many different extraordinary stories that you wanted to work on?
Well, born into Brothels and documentaries in general, that was and is my passion. Really, we were talking before about, activism, art as activism. And the way I find some of these projects is really people find me. I have a lot of filmmaker friends at Sundance. Some of my friends, there's a group that's called Impact Partners, and they've done a lot of funding for documentary films. So basically, it's instinctual. I get screenplays sent to me, and I review screenplays. There's groups of people that I work with and that I continue to work with. So it's like success breeds success. And so I look at these projects, pitch these projects, and when something strikes a chord with me, then I decide, that I want to be involved in this project and with these people. And just as an aside, usually we get the question, I don't want you to go home sad. These kids, 8 years, okay. I was going to ask. Okay, because I made some notes. I had dinner with Abhijit. Abhijit is a filmmaker. He's graduated from NYU, and he just did his own film on immigration. And I took some notes. I was talking to Shanti. She's studying at Future Hope, and she's at the Culinary Institute in Mumbai. And Kochi is back in Calcutta. Kochi was in Salt Lake. I had dinner with Kochi about 2 years ago, and then she got homesick. She went back to Calcutta, but she did finish her high school online, and she's taking education courses and completed her high school. She's very interested in nursing. Tapasi is in beauty school, and she's about to graduate with a cosmetology degree. Manik has gone on to university in accounting. Pooja and Gore, unfortunately, have returned back to the district. If you save one life, you make a difference. And there was a legacy project that came out of this film that was called Kids with Camera. And they raised a great deal of money across the country, and they designed a school, and there has been a clinic put in the Sonagachi district in the last 2 years, and they are building a big school with an attachment for the mothers of the children, because what I didn't understand really, and I grew to understand, is the children of prostitutes, as it was depicted in the film. It's a caste system in India, and they really they have nowhere to go. And so through this film, it wasn't, and again, it's art as activism. There has been a legacy project. There is a school being built. They broke ground this October. So it's really a success story, and it was a marvelous thing, and I want to acknowledge both Ross Kaufman and Xana Brisky for bringing this kind of film to people like myself, and who are just skiing, and and all of a sudden are struck with, yes, I can do something and I can help people. So does that answer the question? Okay.
Well, that was a wonderful story, and thank you for updating us on the children. I mean, I guess that's the best proof there is that art as activism works. Because the film was made, because the filmmakers cared about the children in the situation, the audience responded, and the children's lives are actually better because of it. Speaking of art as activism, I was wondering if you could talk about that a little more. Like, what would you like to see from the film industry? Because as an audience, we have a lot of opportunity to see things that are fun, just passing entertainment. But as you've demonstrated, film has the capacity to change people's lives and change the world. So what would you like to see from filmmaking? How would you like to see filmmaking change the world?
I think the people to the left of me, they're doing it. I mean, and there's been a great deal of interest in documentary filmmaking. I mean, documentary filmmaking 10 years ago was not anything like it is now. So there, people have issues like Waiting for Sugar Man. Is just coming to the theaters now, and this gentleman was rediscovered. And social justice films. There's a lot of social justice films, and they're very important, and they're life-changing. This film was life-changing for me. And I think it will continue to be so. And I will quote Oprah, because Oprah said to some folks when we were out there in Sundance that she planned to do for documentary films what she did for books. And she started her channel, and and it opens it up for people, and I believe she will. So.
One last question. From the filmmaker's perspective, how can we as an audience participate in that? Because I think there's a perspective that to be a viewer is to be passive, and yet that's clearly not the case because you were able to raise so much money for the children.
Well, just by the mere fact that you come to these films and support these films and meet these wonderful people here who are really actively involved in filmmaking and bringing these issues, I can't wait to see your film, really. So what was the rest of the question? I'm old here.
How can we as an audience participate in art as activism? How can we take part in changing the world?
Well, I think it's once you see the film, and if it strikes you, you become involved. And then maybe it's not that you're going to be making more films, but you're going to join organizations, you're going to know about it, you're going to go into the internet and find, more things out about, what this film meant to you. So, I mean, really, but it starts by going to the film. Just go to the film, and then once you go to the film, it will strike you, and you will find your niche. You really will. I mean, like my sister there. she's and she's amazing, and she is an activist. And she exposes herself, as I'm sure that all the people that are still sitting here are interested in doing. So, that's what I think. I don't know, what do you guys think? You have a lot to say now.
Always. It's really important, and we deal with artists on a daily basis. Derek works in a department at Bowling Green State University that deals specifically with young artists and teaching them art as activism, sustainable art. We discuss this with them all the time. You can see 1,000,001 of these films and become so impassioned about so many different topics. When we were discussing earlier, this is my 4th time seeing Born into Brothels. The first time that I saw it, I had to make sure that 10 other people saw it afterwards. And while everybody is not necessarily suited for quote-unquote getting involved, meaning everybody's not going to go out and be the frontline freedom fighter. Everybody doesn't necessarily find it within themselves to picket or throw up signs or block off stores like Walmart. I don't know how, all activists choose to do what they do. Our activism is definitely portrayed through creating film and other types of art forms. The thing is, once you've seen these films are to inform you. They're not solely for the sake of entertainment. And if you take that information and you pass it on to the next individual, they pass it on to the next individual, they pass it on to the next individual, what you find is that you end up with a very large dynamic of people and demographic of people who are now informed about something that they were not informed about before. And of course, there are going to be those people who are fighting for legislation, who are fighting for legal change, who are fighting for educational change, making sure that the difference is being made in society. The more this information gets passed around, the more likely it is that you guys are going to make the right vote when it's time to abolish the 13th Amendment. To actually abolish the 13th Amendment. And so clearly, we can't tell everybody, yeah, you got to get out there on the front lines and you have to be the one that's holding the sign and be ready to go to prison, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Take a beat down for it, But at the end of the day, if you take what you see in these documentary films specifically and pass it on to the next individual, what you will find is that more and more folks become informed about what is happening in our society and in societies around the world.
Ditto. But since I do have the microphone in my hand, I will answer a question that I get sometimes, and that is, how to see this film again, in particularly because 631 is a less than 10-minute film, and so it's not something you can go pick up into the DVD store or Netflix or anything like that. However, we were fortunate enough to get a permanent place on the PBS website from the Need to Know website. The URL is very long, but 631 in Youngstown through the PBS website will get you there. We're also fortunate enough to be playing in an online film festival called Culture Unplugged right now, and that'll be playing until December online again. The Culture Unplugged website, 631 will be in there. And then we also have a Facebook page for the film as well. And so if it's something that you would like to share with someone else, or especially here in Youngstown, because it's something that is very close to home, literally, feel free to check it out online or find it online as well. And you can still be able to share it that way.
Well, there you have it, audience. Filmmakers can make films, but they can't make people watch, so we do need your support. So I encourage you to come to the rest of the screenings, and please tell your friends not only about the festival, but about these films and others like them. So unless anyone else has any questions, I think we'll wrap it up. Well, thank you very much for coming, and thank you for screening your films here. We applaud.